Even decades later, America still remembers Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. People remember her elegance, her intelligence, her calm voice and graceful presence. To many, she became more than a first lady. She became an icon, a symbol of beauty, class, and strength. But behind that public image was a far more complex story. Before the White House, before fame, before tragedy, she was simply Jacqueline Bouvier. Jacqueline Lee Bouvier was born on July 28, 1929, in Southampton. She grew up in a wealthy family with privilege and opportunity. From childhood, she was surrounded by culture and education. She loved books, art, and history deeply. She also loved horseback riding and became very skilled at it. People quickly noticed her intelligence and sharp observations. She was not loud or attention-seeking, but she had a quiet confidence that stood out. Her father, John Vernou Bouvier III, was charming and highly social. Her mother, Janet Lee Bouvier, valued discipline and social status. From both parents, Jacqueline learned important lessons. She learned how image influences perception. She learned how society judges appearance and behavior. These lessons shaped her future. They helped build the polished public image America later admired. But childhood was not perfect. Her parents' marriage became increasingly difficult. Arguments and emotional tension filled the home. Eventually, they divorced. For young Jacqueline, this was painful and confusing. Like many children of divorce, she felt instability. The elegant world around her hid emotional complexity. She learned something important very early. Beautiful appearances can hide private pain. That lesson would return many times in her life. Jacqueline excelled academically as she grew older. She studied at elite schools and developed refined taste. She later attended George Washington University. She studied literature, history, and French. Languages fascinated her. She became fluent in French and appreciated European culture. Her love for art and history became central to her identity. She was far more intellectual than many assumed. People often focused on her beauty first. And yes, she was strikingly beautiful. Her style and elegance attracted attention everywhere. But those who knew her understood something deeper. She was highly intelligent and observant. She noticed details others missed. She thought carefully before speaking. Her quiet nature often hid a sharp mind. After college, Jacqueline began working as a journalist. She became a photographer and reporter in Washington. This job brought her close to politics and public life. She interviewed important public figures and observed power closely. She learned how media shapes public perception. She saw how image influences political success. Without knowing it, she was preparing for her future. Because soon, she would meet someone extraordinary. A young politician was about to enter her life. In 1952, Jacqueline met a rising politician from Massachusetts. His name was John Kennedy. He was charismatic, ambitious, and came from a powerful family. People were naturally drawn to his energy. He had charm, humor, and enormous political ambition. He wanted something very few achieve. He wanted the presidency. And Jacqueline would soon become part of that dream. Their connection grew quickly. John admired Jacqueline's beauty and intelligence. Jacqueline admired his ambition and charisma. Together, they formed a powerful couple. But their relationship was not simple. Love existed, but so did pressure and expectations. Politics would demand sacrifice from both of them. And Jacqueline's life was about to change forever. In 1953, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis married John Kennedy. Their wedding immediately attracted national attention. It was one of the most talked about social events of the year. The ceremony brought together powerful families, politicians, and media. To the public, they looked like the perfect American couple. Young, attractive, intelligent, and full of promise. People saw glamour, elegance, and ambition. But behind the beautiful photos, life was far more complicated. Marriage to John Kennedy meant entering a world of constant pressure. Politics was not just his career. It was his life. His family was deeply ambitious and intensely competitive. The Kennedy family expected greatness from its members. Failure was rarely accepted. Everyone was expected to contribute to political success. Now Jacqueline was part of that world. Being married to a rising politician required sacrifice. Campaigns meant long absences and constant public appearances. Private moments became increasingly rare. Media attention grew stronger every year. Jacqueline valued privacy deeply, so this was difficult. She preferred quiet reflection over constant publicity. Still, she adapted to political life with grace. She understood appearances mattered greatly in politics. Soon, John Kennedy's ambitions became even bigger. John Kennedy continued rising in American politics. First as a congressman, then as a senator. His speeches gained national attention. His charisma attracted supporters everywhere. People saw youth, energy, and confidence in him. He represented a new generation of leadership. By the late 1950s, one goal became clear. John Kennedy wanted the presidency. The 1960 presidential campaign became historic. Kennedy ran against Richard Nixon. The race was intense and closely watched. Television played a huge role in shaping public opinion. Appearance now mattered more than ever before. And Jacqueline became a major advantage for the campaign. Her elegance and intelligence impressed many voters. She helped strengthen the Kennedy image enormously. Even while pregnant during the campaign, Jacqueline supported strategically. She gave interviews and connected with voters. She spoke multiple languages and impressed international audiences. Her sophistication stood out strongly in American politics. She brought grace and cultural depth to the campaign. People admired her beauty, but also her intelligence. She was not simply standing beside her husband. She became part of the story itself. Then came election night. America waited anxiously for results. The race was extremely close. Every vote mattered. Finally, the result became official. John Kennedy had won. At just 43 years old, he became the youngest elected United States president. And Jacqueline became First Lady. At only 31, she entered the White House and changed it forever. When Jacqueline arrived at the White House, she saw something disappointing. America's most famous home lacked historical beauty inside. Many rooms had lost their original character. Furniture and art felt disconnected from history. Jacqueline immediately saw an opportunity. She wanted to restore dignity and cultural importance. She believed the White House should reflect American history, not just function as a residence. She launched an ambitious restoration project. She searched for historical furniture, paintings, and artifacts. She worked with historians, collectors, and designers. Her attention to detail was extraordinary. She cared deeply about authenticity and beauty. Every room had meaning to her. She wanted future generations to respect this history. Her vision transformed the White House completely. In 1962, she gave America a televised tour of the restored White House. Millions watched. The program became a massive success. People were captivated by her knowledge and elegance. She spoke calmly, intelligently, and with real passion. Suddenly, Americans saw something remarkable. Their First Lady was not only stylish. She was deeply educated and thoughtful. The world also fell in love with Jacqueline Kennedy. During international visits, global leaders admired her greatly. In France, her fluent French amazed audiences. In many countries, crowds gathered just to see her. She became a global fashion icon almost overnight. Women copied her hairstyles, dresses, and style. Designers admired her timeless elegance. Media around the world followed her constantly. Her influence went beyond fashion. She changed how people viewed the role of First Lady. Before Jacqueline, the position often felt ceremonial. She made it cultural, intellectual, and globally influential. She brought art, history, and sophistication into public life. She helped shape the image of the Kennedy presidency. Many began calling that era Camelot, a shining symbol of youth and hope. But behind the glamour, tragedy was quietly approaching. Jacqueline and John seemed to have everything: power, fame, admiration, influence. But life rarely stays perfect for long. The glamorous image hid private pain and growing danger. History was moving toward one unforgettable day. A single moment would shock America forever. And Jacqueline Kennedy's life would change in an instant. From the outside, the Kennedy family looked almost perfect. They were young, powerful, admired around the world. The media loved their elegance and glamour. Many Americans saw them as royalty without crowns. The White House felt full of energy and hope. But behind the cameras, life was not painless. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis had already experienced deep personal sorrow. And tragedy had visited her family more than once. Before the world-changing events of 1963, Jacqueline faced heartbreaking losses. She suffered multiple difficult pregnancies. Not every child survived. These losses caused immense emotional pain. In 1956, she gave birth to a stillborn daughter. The grief deeply affected both Jacqueline and John. Later, in 1963, another tragedy struck. Their baby son, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy, lived only 2 days. The loss of Patrick devastated Jacqueline. She was heartbroken and emotionally exhausted. For weeks, sadness surrounded the family. Even John Kennedy seemed deeply affected. He wanted to help his wife recover emotionally. He hoped time away might bring healing. So later that year, a political trip was planned. That trip would become one of history's darkest moments. No one knew this journey to Dallas would become unforgettable. In November 1963, President Kennedy traveled to Texas. The trip had political importance. He wanted to strengthen support before the next election. Several public appearances were scheduled across Texas. Jacqueline joined him on the trip. This was notable because she had recently stayed away from public events. People were excited to see her again. Crowds gathered in huge numbers. On November 22, 1963, the presidential motorcade entered Dallas. The weather was bright and beautiful. People lined the streets cheering loudly. Many waved flags and smiled. The mood felt joyful and welcoming. Jacqueline sat beside her husband in an open-top limousine. She wore a bright pink suit that became iconic. No one sensed the horror coming. Then everything changed in seconds. Gunshots suddenly rang out. At first, confusion spread instantly. Some people thought they heard fireworks. Others froze in shock. Then panic exploded. President Kennedy was hit. The limousine accelerated rapidly toward safety. People screamed and ran for cover. Chaos filled the streets of Dallas. America's golden image shattered in a moment. Jacqueline reacted instinctively. She moved toward her husband immediately. She tried to help him despite overwhelming shock. In those terrifying seconds, survival instinct took over. Blood covered her clothes. Her face showed disbelief and horror. The elegant First Lady was suddenly inside a nightmare. Nothing could prepare anyone for this moment. The limousine rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital. Doctors worked desperately to save the president. But the injuries were catastrophic. The situation became hopeless quickly. Inside the hospital, silence and shock spread. Then the official words came. John Kennedy was dead. America had lost its president. The news spread across the nation within minutes. Television interrupted normal programming. Radio stations delivered urgent announcements. People stopped wherever they were. Workers, families, students, strangers, everyone listened in disbelief. Many cried openly. Many simply could not process the news. The country entered collective mourning. The assassination became one of the most traumatic moments in American history. It felt like innocence had died with Kennedy. Hope turned into grief instantly. Fear spread across the country. Who did this? Why did it happen? Could America ever feel the same again? Questions filled every home. Through all this chaos, Jacqueline remained remarkably composed. Inside, she was devastated. But outwardly, she showed extraordinary control. She refused to change out of her blood-stained pink suit. She reportedly said something powerful. "I want him to see what they have done." Those words reflected immense grief and strength. She understood the historical weight of the moment. Even in unbearable pain, Jackie was thinking about history. Soon after the assassination, another historic moment occurred. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson had to be sworn in immediately. This happened aboard Air Force One. Jacqueline stood beside him during the oath. She was still wearing the same pink suit. Still covered with traces of tragedy. The image became one of history's most powerful photographs. It symbolized grief, transition, and resilience. In the days that followed, Jacqueline shaped how America mourned. She carefully planned Kennedy's funeral. She drew inspiration from historic state funerals, especially Abraham Lincoln. She wanted dignity, symbolism, and meaning. Millions watched the funeral on television. The entire world mourned with America. Her courage during those days earned immense respect. She became more than First Lady. She became a symbol of grace under unimaginable pain. Many began using one word to describe the Kennedy era: Camelot. The term came from the musical Camelot. It symbolized a beautiful kingdom that ended too soon. Jacqueline helped create that image deliberately. She wanted people to remember Kennedy's presidency with dignity and hope. not only through violence and tragedy. That decision shaped American memory forever. And it preserved the legend of Camelot. But Jacqueline's story was far from over. After unimaginable loss, she still had to keep living. She still had children to protect. She still had a future to face. The world watched her every move. Some admired her. Some judged her decisions. And soon, she would make choices that shocked America once again. After the assassination of John Kennedy, life changed completely for Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. She was only 34 years old. She was suddenly a widow. And she now had 2 young children to protect. The entire world watched her constantly. Every appearance became front-page news. Every decision was analyzed by the media. Grief alone was overwhelming. But privacy became almost impossible. Jacqueline's biggest priority became clear. She wanted safety for her children, John Kennedy Jr. and Caroline Kennedy. After Kennedy's assassination, she lived with fear. She had seen violence come too close. And tragically, more violence followed the Kennedy family. In 1968, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Another Kennedy had been murdered. The fear became unbearable. Jacqueline reportedly said something chilling after that tragedy. "If they're killing Kennedys, then my children are targets too." That fear shaped her next major decision. She no longer felt safe in America. She wanted security, privacy, and distance from constant media attention. And then she made a decision that shocked the country. A decision many Americans did not expect. A decision many strongly criticized. America's beloved Jackie was about to remarry. In 1968, Jacqueline married Aristotle Onassis. Onassis was one of the richest men in the world. He was a powerful Greek shipping tycoon. He was also 23 years older than her. The marriage instantly became global headline news. Reactions were intense and deeply divided. Some people understood her need for safety. Others felt shocked and disappointed. Many Americans struggled with the marriage emotionally. To them, Jackie symbolized the Kennedy legacy. She represented Camelot, national grief, and memory. Marrying someone outside that image felt unexpected. Some critics said she betrayed Kennedy's memory. Media coverage became harsh and relentless. Tabloids followed her everywhere. Judgment came from all directions. But Jacqueline made her choice deliberately. She wanted protection and control over her life. She wanted to escape the crushing spotlight. She wanted peace for her children. Whether people approved or not mattered less now. For perhaps the first time, she chose herself fully. That choice revealed great strength and independence. Jackie refused to live only by public expectations. Yet even wealth could not guarantee happiness. Her marriage to Aristotle Onassis was complicated. They lived between different countries and lifestyles. Onassis offered security and luxury. But emotional closeness was more difficult. Their worlds were very different. Over time, the relationship became distant. Then in 1975, Onassis died. Jacqueline became widowed again. After his death, something changed in Jacqueline. She began rebuilding life on her own terms. Not as First Lady. Not as widow. Not as society icon. As herself. This became one of the most important chapters of her life. Because Jackie chose reinvention. She returned to professional work in New York City. Many were surprised by this decision. She could have lived comfortably without working. But money was not the point. Purpose mattered to her deeply. She entered publishing and book editing. She worked at respected publishing houses. Colleagues admired her intelligence and discipline. People who worked with her noticed something important. Behind the glamorous image was a serious professional. She was intelligent, detail-focused, and highly cultured. She loved literature, art, and history deeply. She brought taste and sophistication to every project. She was not just a famous name. She earned respect through real work. And that mattered to her greatly. Over time, public opinion softened. Criticism faded. Admiration returned. People began seeing her full story more clearly. Not just the elegant First Lady. Not just the widow of JFK. But a woman who survived extraordinary pain. A woman who kept rebuilding herself. That may be Jackie's greatest legacy. So how is Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis remembered today? For many, she remains unforgettable. She changed what a First Lady could be. She brought culture, elegance, and intellect to the White House. She shaped public memory of the Kennedy era. She protected history and created symbolism. She influenced fashion, politics, and culture globally. Few First Ladies had such lasting impact. But perhaps her deepest legacy is more personal. She showed extraordinary grace under unimaginable pressure. She endured public tragedy, grief, and constant scrutiny. She lost a husband to assassination. She faced judgment for personal choices. She lived under relentless public attention. Yet she continued moving forward. Again and again. That is why America never forgot Jackie. Not only because she was elegant. Not only because she was beautiful. But because she represented resilience. She reminded people that dignity can survive tragedy. That grace can exist alongside pain. And that strength is sometimes quiet, not loud. Sometimes strength looks like simply continuing. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis died in 1994. But her influence never disappeared. Even decades later, her image remains iconic. Her story still fascinates new generations. The woman America watched in joy and grief. The First Lady who defined an era. The woman who survived history itself. She remains unforgettable.